I think like once you got into a relationship and I knew how busy you were, I was like, I don't want to like feel like a burden to her. So I'm not going to reach out to Julie.
Yeah.
Okay, so you make fun of me for saying let's go so much.
I don't mind saying let's go.
You know,
I like it.
you know what you've been saying recently that I've been picking up?
What?
I kind of want you to guess. You think you could guess it?
You know?
No. Cadence. You've been using cadence quite a bit.
I have been.
Yeah.
I have been.
Yeah.
But that's just a phase. That's just a little like, that's the
A
word
little
of the
corporate lingo.
the word of the month type of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I've been picking up on it.
Yeah. Next month will be a different word.
Oh, you know what a word is that I've been loving? So, I have a friend named Ashley. She's a graphic designer. And so we've been working with her. And she's been typing UNKEH. It's UNKEH. UNKEH.
Stop.
UNKEH? Yeah.
UNKEH?
Yeah.
Like, did you know it was like, okay, like when she first typed it?
Well, when she first typed it, I was like, what the F is she saying? And then it's just like, okay. Like, really, like, like almost like decaf. But literally, I can't stop laughing. Like, I think I love it.
I like it. That's so original.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you guys want to actually give her design Instagram a little follow, it's Lil Sashimi. So it's okay. Sashimi.
Okay. I feel like it's been a while since we've done Welcome to another episode of BULGOGI Pod.
Yeah, I feel like we've been forgetting to do our little intro.
Yeah, maybe like the entire season we've forgotten.
Yeah, I think so. Ready?
Welcome to another episode of BULGOGI Pod. I sound a little congested, I think.
You do. Ew, dude, that's gross.
It comes out anyways. It's gonna be like the good bacteria is gonna fight the bad bacteria, and then it's gonna like pew pew pew, uppercut jab, and like I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna give myself like another like 5 days to be fine. But yeah, I was sick for the past 2 weeks, so there's not too much of an update there because my calendar was literally empty.
And you know what's really funny?
What
is literally right before you got sick, you were like, I'm not gonna get sick for the rest of the year.
I know. So I was actually thinking about it very seriously, and I need to go find if anybody that listens to us is would you call a professional allergy professional an allergist? Yeah, an allergist, or like an immunologist.
Okay.
You know, like maybe this is like an autoimmune disease that I don't think
it's immunologist. What's pathology?
Immunologist?
What's pathology? What's a pathologist? Is that's
a great question, but
like pathogen?
I like immunologist.
Okay.
Someone who
immunizes.
Someone who is a professional in the immunity system of what?
Okay, awesome.
I'm going to use this as kind of like a whiteboard today. An immunologist, an allergist, maybe a pathologist.
Okay.
Tell me, identify why I am getting sick in the cadence of every 3 months. Literally every 3 months.
Oh God. My cadence of getting sick is usually once, and then I'm like a little congested for the entire year. Like, I'm still a little congested from when I was like sick a few weeks ago.
Yeah, but I feel like you just get like a real good sleep, and then you kind of like, you resurrect.
Yeah,
like,
I literally resurrect.
You go from like a 10% to then like a 90, and then you're like lingering in that 90.
Right.
I feel like for me, it's very much incremental. Like every day is like going up 1-2%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find you someone to help, because that's not fun.
Yeah. Or the second solution is just let's be sick for the rest of the year or like forever, so that I can't get more sick because I'm already sick.
Oh, like you won't know what healthy is.
Exactly.
If you're
like
sick,
that is the new norm for me.
Time.
Exactly. So I cannot tell people, oh, I'm sick, because I'm already there.
Right.
And I've been like that for so long.
That's effing gross.
That was the second solution. So we'll see.
Well, speaking of rock bottom, you know what's really funny is
it funny? Is it funny?
Yeah, I think life is just
funny,
just like comedy, and what is and drama? What are the two like categories? I think it's comedy and drama. But basically, like,
what about romance? What about sci-fi? What about kids and family?
No, there's like two categorizations of like what
of life.
Yeah, I think it's comedy and drama. Like everything can be like categorized into those two things, and then they kind of intertwine. Because you know when you like you feel the rock bottom coming. I literally called it like a couple weeks ago on one of our podcasts. I was like, I don't know why I have this like a sneaking suspicion that like I'm gonna hit rock bottom. Oh, I hit it this past week, guys, and it was not fun. And I think it's just, you know, to give you a little bit of insight, we'll kind of dive deeper into it this week and then on next week's episode. But essentially, like, I am the most like emotional and sensitive when it comes to two things: family and career. And so it just so happens that those are the two things that I've been kind of like dealing with. I think it's just like overall, like, you know, being in your 20s, not knowing like what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life, and then also like I think this is kind of reminding me of the time when I was like the rockiest with my family during COVID, because I'm not seeing them, and then I'm also like not communicating with them, and so yeah, it's been a little rough. And you know, thank you to everyone who reached out to me. Yeah. I posted like a crying selfie.
I love the vulnerability though.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I mean, posted on Brewy IG story, and then it was like a crying selfie, and I was like, is it just me or is everyone a little sad right now, right? And I did a little poll. 95% of the people that voted said, yeah, I've been a little sad lately.
So how did you feel about the other individuals? Because I was more curious, like, who in their fucking mind
voted?
Right? Hannah's posting a picture of her crying, like, obviously, right, like, wanting some support, and they're like, no, I feel fine, it's just you. It's like,
well, so I think that's where the comedy part comes in. Okay. I'm like, bro. Right? And so I think it made me feel a lot better that there were so many people that like sympathized, you know, empathized. Yeah. Like I was like, oh, okay, it's not just me. And then like I did a follow-up question, like, okay, is it the weather? Because right, it's been getting a little chilly. I've been turning on the heater. I've been wearing the same sweatshirt for 4 days.
I'm so happy. I'm very happy.
The hoodie that Julie got me from Aimee Leon Dore.
Yeah, so I really thought you gave it away.
You thought I sold it.
Yeah.
You were literally like, I think she sold it.
Well, my initial thought was, okay, like, I'm sure they would have let her, like, exchanged it. Maybe she wanted something else.
Oh my gosh, no.
But I didn't give you a gift receipt, I think.
No.
So, like, I was like, but they probably would let her, like, just as a brand. Because that was Christmas.
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like almost
a year ago. I have never seen you wear it. Never ever.
You know, I think like I just like was not wearing hoodies all of last year. Like I just like I just felt like kind of frumpy. And then this year I was like, I can feel frumpy. That's okay. Like I literally lived in that sweater for like 4 days.
Happy.
And so yeah, my follow-up question was, oh, like is it just the weather or like is it everything? And like again, like I think it was 95% of you were like, it's everything. It's not the weather, right? Because I think a lot of times like during this season, it's easy to be like, oh, it's the weather. It's been gloomy, but like nar.
Yeah, nar. I actually was on the complete opposite. Like every time I walk out, or this past week, every time I walked out of my apartment and took a deep breath in of just, all right, that was good.
She's so congested, guys. You know, maybe you're building up my immunology, my immunity because you're always sick all the time, and so my body knows how to fight it.
That's a bad example. It wasn't so much me taking in a little. It was just the cold air hitting my face. Makes me so happy.
No, honestly, it's been really nice.
I love it.
My cold showers have been really rough though.
When I was really thinking about, because I'm so weird, like assessing the months and how I feel about the months of this year, because now we're approaching like the tail end of the year.
Oh god.
October did it again. Like it was such a great month. Like October, it's my favorite.
Yeah. No, honestly, I feel like vibes are good in October. Except maybe this tail end of it was a little rough for me, but you know, such is life. So it's fine. But yeah, I guess like with all of that being said, we're gonna get into our episode about feeling left out when your friends get into a relationship.
Yes. And why do we want to talk about this?
Because I think that I've been feeling a little bit of this.
Yes, but not for me because I'm single.
Right, but that doesn't mean we can't go back in time.
Which I'm really excited to talk about.
I actually am too, because I don't think we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Like we haven't done like a debrief, like a little like
what was I like when I was in a relationship?
yeah. But basically, like, you know, to continue on from 2 weeks ago's episode on like sister relationships, right? My sister got into a relationship about a year ago. And I don't think I really started to realize that like maybe I was feeling like a little left out, a little abandoned until
why did you look so cute saying like abandoned?
Until I went to my cousin's wedding in Colorado, right? Because I think a lot of times, like when you're in a relationship and then go on vacation, it takes a little bit more energy and effort to, right, like keep up with your significant other. So it's like, oh, I need to like, you know, like maybe leave family time like in the evening to go FaceTime them, right? But then in my eyes, because like obviously I am not in a relationship right now, like I was just kind of like, bro, that's so rude for you to like, you know, we only have so much time in Colorado with all of our cousins, with our family, and for you to like not participate, I guess, and like, you know, just like the dinners and stuff like that. Like I was just kind of like, that's kind of rude, right? And so I feel like I started to realize like maybe I was like a little bit like angry at her, right? Because I thought that like maybe I was like, oh, like I don't know what my feelings were, but then kind of digging down deep, like I was feeling abandoned because my sister got into a relationship. And like, you know what's really funny is, right, I've been to
why are you saying it like that?
I don't know. I just like, you know, like abandonment is such a heavy topic. I feel like I have to add levity to it. But like, right, I've been to
Crazy
a couple
eyes.
weddings, and like I remember at one of the weddings, like the sister gave a speech, and she was saying like, "Oh, I feel like you're taking my sister away from me." Right? And I'm sitting in the crowd and I'm going, oh God, I don't know if you're supposed to say that. But now I get it. I get her. Because it's like, this has been like your person for like basically your entire life. And then to feel like, oh, maybe I'm not like a priority, or I'm not like the number one priority, or whatever it is. I think it's like something like hard to come to terms with.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
And I think just adding on to our topic from last week, right? Because we'd have an episode, right? You obviously care a lot about your sister's input and just kind of like her opinions on, I think, a lot of the aspects of your life, whether that be career or your outfit or a significant other. Yeah. So, I mean, do you feel like this was more recent? I mean, you said about a year ago, right? So was this more so like this trip, or like a build-up from the start?
You know, I think the trip was like the big like it made it very obvious to me that like maybe I was feeling abandoned. But like I think a lot of these things, it just kind of like builds up without you even realizing, right?
Yeah.
Like I think like even with friends, like a lot of times like you don't realize like, oh, they haven't really been communicative in like a couple months. And so like once you start to realize, then like it's kind of like that thing where every little thing will get you mad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That was also going to be a follow-up, just like, oh, like if you weren't already a little bit irritated, like, would it have bothered you that she didn't maybe partake in maybe the games after dinner? Like, I'm making this up. I don't know if you guys play games, but I would assume so.
Yeah, no.
Right? You're in Colorado.
Yeah, like what are you gonna do?
What do you do?
Yeah.
But I also just thought, I hope like in our future for the both of us, we'll be at a place where we are good friends with our siblings, significant others, right? But knowing how different you are from your sister, and knowing how different I am with my sister, like, do you think we'll find partners that would like jive with our siblings?
You know, I jive with my I jive with my sister.
I don't know why. I like, you know, like Little dancey.
Yeah. Well, I jive with my sister, so I hope that I would jive with their partner too.
Yeah, but like what attracts you to a guy? I feel like you you guys don't look for like. Do you guys have a similar taste?
I don't know what her taste is.
Okay.
I don't even like know what my taste is
Yeah.
to an extent because I feel like it's changing.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm like starting to prioritize different things now.
Yeah.
And so
Like you like the dorky.
yeah, I love it.
Mine was the dorky, but I'm gonna try and open the horizons.
Oh, okay. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by
Open up the horizon. Open up the horizon. I think I've been sitting in too many meetings. Like I'm out here using a lot of hand gestures.
I love it.
I don't really know what that means yet, but I'm trying to not funnel myself. Exactly. Funnel myself to this one type of person.
Guys, if you guys aren't watching the podcast, you're literally missing out. What are you doing? Julie's hand gestures today are great. They're great.
I'm gonna cry. Oh no.
Okay, so that's encouragement and a plug for our YouTube channel, BULGOGI Podcast on YouTube. I just claimed the handle, BULGOGI Podcast.
Oh, because they just implemented YouTube handles. They're doing great. They're really doing great.
Yeah.
But I mean, aside from the dorky dork, which I just feel like you need to say it like that, not just a dorky type of personality, which is great.
Right.
Maybe it's quirky. I'm gonna explore the inner quirky.
Yeah.
I think since June Lee's episode, I'm trying to really dive into my quirky era.
She's like in her quirky era.
Yeah, I'm bringing out the Jess from New Girl Within me
right now. Oh, I like
now.
that.
But anyways, going back to you. Well, and I asked and just kind of like blurted this out because I feel like if you guys were really close, like wouldn't you then just partake in the FaceTimes too? Like when on this family vacation?
I mean, yes and no. Like, it was like, oh, hey, like, how you doing? But I also think, like, right, like, we haven't really had, like, much of a chance to, like, get to know each other, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've known her partner for, like, since elementary school. Like,
oh, yeah.
Like, for my life, right? You too.
Yeah.
But, like, I think I haven't, like, interacted with him, like, recently. And so I don't know who he is anymore.
For sure.
You know, it's like, I know fifth grade him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, current him.
Yeah.
And so maybe also, like, the lack of, like, relationship building with my sister's significant other has been kind of, like, you know, impacting.
Like, seems distant.
Yeah. I think, like, a lot of times, too, like, because maybe between me and my sister, she has, like, I'm not going to say just she, but, like, we have not been communicating. And then on my end, because of that, I'm making assumptions that she's only talking to her partner, right? Like, she's taken the time that she used to spend with me and is now spending it with her partner. And so I think, right, it's that same, like, pattern of not communicating and then me therefore making assumptions and then her making assumptions on her end. And so it's just been this, like, cycle. So I think like maybe that could be the reason, just like a lack of communication.
I know. I really must have had to share this story maybe in season 1. This is kind of on a tangent, but I think it's really funny.
Yeah.
Do you remember when I told you that in, like, I don't know, 3rd or 4th grade, I had these, like, you know, my favorite princess is Cinderella. Right. And so I had the church boys called me Cinderella.
I remember that.
Yeah. And I think it was our friend Jonathan and your sister's boyfriend who, like, made fun of me for wanting to be called Cinderella. But I'm past it.
The fact that you remember.
I remember. It was those two individuals.
That makes sense.
It's okay.
Okay, it's okay.
I was pretty ridiculous too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To add on to your answer, right? It's funny because when I think about my sister, it's interesting because I haven't experienced that yet, right? She hasn't brought anyone home that, you know, she's been serious with. I've never been introduced to, like, somebody she's had a crush on or anything like that. So I don't know, it's kind of an area we haven't experienced yet.
Right, because you've also said that your sister is, like, not that focused on, like,
she's like a huge, like, friends gal, like, and a big homebody.
Oh, she's a girl's girl.
She's a girl's girl.
Yeah.
I think if we wanted to, I would probably dress up more like a girly girl. She's just your true Gen Z True Gen Zer. And it's funny because then my boss, because we work together, was like, oh, like she doesn't seem like a Sagittarius. She's definitely not adventurous. But little does he know. Little does he know. And it was just funny that you mentioned like you might feel this way because, you were assuming that the time that used to be spent with you is now being spent with maybe her significant other. And so that's why there's this lack of communication and these assumptions are making you feel like quote unquote abandoned. So prior, my answer was like, oh yeah, my sisters definitely felt left out. Like
when you got into a relationship?
Yeah. She must I feel like she did, right? I mean, because there were like little comments here and there, just like, I remember one time she had come home from college, but she never like announces she's coming home. So I always have plans and she felt a little upset. Right. Stuff like that, right? And obviously my plans were either set with like our friends or like my significant other. So thinking of those instances, I had assumed like in preparation for this episode, oh yeah, she's definitely felt left out. So I gave her a ring because I don't want to falsely,
assume things.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to, say these things and then her come back and be like, I never felt that way. Right. So I want to just spit the facts here. And then she goes, oh, I've never felt left out.
She's never felt left out?
Yeah. And I was kind of shocked. Like, okay, let's go back a bit. Like, can you explain what do you mean? Because I was under the impression, or at least like I thought I needed to be more aware and make sure I never became that sister or that friend who only spent time with her significant other.
Right.
But her answer was interesting in that she was like, well, it was not so much that she didn't feel left out, but she's become accustomed to it because if it wasn't for your significant other, prior to that, it would have been your friends. So she's become so used to my time being allocated to like my friends. Right. And then obviously when it wasn't with my friends, like that same time was with my significant other, that for her, it wasn't like a big difference.
That makes sense.
And because we are not like a spontaneous pair of sisters.
Right.
Yeah, we usually always plan things out. It's not that we necessarily like started spending less time together because we've always been a more like, let's hang out together on this day from these hours to do this event.
Right.
Not like chill together, then go shopping together. Because even our shopping styles are so different.
Right. Oh, that makes sense. Like she was just used to it. And I can really identify with that. Like at a certain point, I was like, oh damn. Literally, I think like it was like everyone but like me and a couple guy friends in our group. Like everyone else was in a relationship. So I want to say 12 out of 15 people were in a relationship. And so I think I'm also used to it. Like I think I'm used to like not only people like, being more present and then becoming less present, or it's just like, right, we have a couple in our group who's been dating for 10 years, and so it's just kind of like, oh, that's just like literally how I know you guys. Like I've experienced nothing else. Yeah. And so I've definitely gotten used to it. But I guess like, right, with certain people, like especially those that like I haven't really seen in a relationship, like I think it's harder, right? Yeah. Like I think with my sister, that's one example. Like I've seen her in other relationships, but like this one, because I'm like not living at the house and stuff, like the dynamic is different. And then also with you, like I think like when we got the closest, especially like at the beginning of the podcast, right? Like you were the only person outside of my family that I was seeing. Yeah. And so I think it was like,
it was a privilege, you guys.
No, it was
to be able to go inside the Lee household during like, this was like peak and like prime
scary
COVID times.
Yeah, it was literally scary COVID times.
People were not visiting each other's houses.
No, not at all. Like I was like, oh God, is this allowed? Yeah. And so I think like, right, we had gone to New York, like we were super close, like you were single, and then like I got into a relationship, and then you got into a relationship, and then I got out of the relationship, and you were still in the relationship, and so the dynamic had changed. For right sure. And like this is something that we haven't shared on the podcast like at all. And so I
like our thoughts about it.
Like I think even between us, like kind of like the same thing happened where like I wasn't communicating with you. Like I think maybe, to be quite honest, because I was so used to the feelings of like feeling abandoned by like other friends, like even with you, I don't think I was like,
so you felt abandoned?
Okay, I think abandoned is a strong word, but like I think I like didn't realize that I felt like maybe like no longer prioritized.
Yes, I was gonna say prioritized. Maybe that's like a better word.
Yeah.
Abandoned.
Like, I don't think I registered it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, if you're not aware of it, like, how are you supposed to communicate about it?
Yeah.
And so, like, that's, like, I think a part of the reason I wasn't communicating.
Yeah. And on my end, now reflecting on what I was like the past year and a half, or the past 2 years, actually, I think I gaslit myself a lot. Right? So even if I'd come to the conclusion of how I felt and I knew how I felt,
Right.
I couldn't justify bringing it up.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
And so it's like, I am aware and I know there's an issue. It was like, you know, let's take it all the way back to season 1 where I would always talk about there's like the one Julie right here and one Julie here. And this is how I feel and I want to express it. But a part of me is like, oh, I can't justify, like, that's like, not that it's selfish because that is how I felt. However, I mean, there's no better word. I did feel a little selfish, right? Like if I bring it up, like I'm not sure what you're supposed to do with that information because there's no like tangible solution, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And also trying to think of how you must have felt. Like I couldn't justify bringing up how I felt.
Okay. And so, like, for concrete examples.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Everyone's like, what the heck is going on?
It's like, okay, so basically, like, I think that, right, like, Julie and I, like, we would hang out a lot.
Well, and I think people don't understand. We actually were not the type of friends that texted, called throughout college. You guys, we
did not.
I think we FaceTime maybe once or twice.
Yeah, I remember. I literally remember.
We never. I think maybe our friend Richie might have FaceTimed me more than like any of the girls have.
Right. 100%. And then I think we got to a point where like, oh, I'm seeing you for the 3rd time this week. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Right? Like it was like, okay, what are we doing? What are we doing this weekend?
Yeah.
You know, like what are our weekend plans? Right? And so I think like once you got into a relationship and I knew how busy you were, I was like, I don't want to like feel like a burden to her. So I'm not going to reach out to Julie.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't want to add more onto her plate because I think like during that time too, like you had like just switched jobs. Like you were stressed at your last job, had just switched jobs.
I think my hair's growing more.
Oh yeah,
what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah,
what are your
no,
thoughts?
it is. I see the baby hairs.
Right
Oh my gosh.
I feel like they're doing a good job.
Wait, they're doing a great job because you're less stressed. But because of like, right, I know you're doing all that. I know that you're boxing. I know how like how much time like your family like would like from you, and like even like right a little bit of a curfew when you're living back at home. Like I was like, oh my god, I feel like I can't like reach out to her otherwise like it's just gonna like feel like too much. Like I think like a lot of times I don't want to feel like a burden, and so like that was coming out, right? But then obviously like I'm not inviting you out to things. So like the only times that we were actually like quote hanging out was to record the podcast. Yeah.
Which is so funny. Like it's, I mean, I don't mean to bring them up in a bad way, but that's why I feel bad for not your house,
your mom's house.
That group, because I'm sure that's how it felt probably, right? And like that's why at that time we had talked like we got to make sure that never becomes a situation,
right?
But I guess also for even further context, it's funny because right, like we were 3,000 miles away, obviously in college. I come back and right, we went strong for 3 months, and that we were like New York, going out for friend's birthday, like your birthday party,
right?
Like it was a really fun filled like Kings ice hockey game, like weekend,
yeah.
And then we went into COVID,
right?
So that was actually my one like full year of being single in my 20s. And so even bringing it back to what you said about your sister, like those expectations because you're so used to spending time with her, like I think that's what you were used to, or like our dynamic, that's what we were used to, right? Like we spent so much time when I became single, and then like that full year of like real, or I mean it's all real COVID, but the prime year of COVID, like that was the type of energy we were bouncing on,
right?
And then to your point of like not wanting to be burdensome, it's interesting, right? Like on the side of like the person not being invited, you always want to be invited, but then you know you're probably not going to have wanted to attend,
right?
Which when we talked about it, this is what I was saying about like I couldn't justify bringing it up because I know sometimes like you avoid like rejection, right? Like, and so, right, like as you said, it doesn't feel nice to like receive no's like repeatedly.
Right.
So like, why ask me out to like go to wherever you wanted to go to?
And
if I was gonna, you could ask me out, but
Yeah.
like, right, like you knew I was gonna say no. And I think what the tricky part is, and like I was really thinking about this too, is like we have some friends we know they don't like going out.
Right. Like
Right?
they've made it very clear. They're like, I am.
Yeah.
Like this is not my vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be a better friend because I think honestly I could be a confusing friend, because the thing is there are times like I love going out. Like maybe that's why it was difficult for you to like identify like whether you should ask me or not, because we have those friends like they're always down, and then we have friends we know like, oh, they definitely go to bed at like 9 p.m. like, you know, work is early, like they're not going to go out, so you know not to ask.
Right.
But for me it's a magic ball. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, what is Julie gonna be like today?
Also, I don't think you know.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so,
Yeah.
like, I, like, there have been times where it's like, oh, okay. Like, I think like the mood doesn't start off like amazing in like the group. And then it's like, oh, wait, no, everyone's feeling it. And then, it flip flops also. Right. Like, it's like, oh, everyone is feeling it. And then it's like, oh, like something will like take someone off, or right, like there can be vibe killers throughout the night, like whatever it is. And so I think like, right, like I recall like times where I think in the past, if we like went out, it was like we're going out. But then like I think there was a time when we like all went out, and then you were like, I'm gonna leave. Yeah. Right. And
when I didn't want to be like a Betty Boop, so then I excused myself to the side, and there was this man who just came by himself. So I was a little creeped out.
And then you decided to leave.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's okay to come by yourself. I was just like, oh, like, are you here with friends? Like,
what are you
doing here?
Yeah.
No, I came out by myself. Like,
oh yeah,
it's just, anyways, yes, like that, like those types of days.
Right. And so I think in the past I would have like tried to convince you to stay.
Yeah.
But like now I think like maybe it's a more like adult perspective of just like, no, if someone like isn't feeling it, like let them leave. Like what is the point in like convincing someone to like go out? I'm like, if you don't want to be here, I don't want you here in a way. Like not in like I don't want you here, but it's like, no, like I truly like I want you to be doing what you think is best for you, right? Because in those moments it's like I think like I can be selfish and be like, no, like stay like for me, but it's like, no, like you can go home, we'll have other nights out. It
was actually sometime during this season, one of the check-ins, I think you had asked me like, right, because the reason why it's so up in the air is because like on that day, if I'm not feeling like energized and I go out and kind of push myself, like I feel like I'm gonna get sick, right? And so you had said, oh, do you think you get sick because you preemptively kind of determine like, you know, like, oh, that you're gonna get sick, right? It's like more psychological. But I think October kind of proves that like that incorrectly, right? Like I think so then I try to challenge myself. Right. Like, okay, like maybe it is really me just kind of getting in my head, like, I'm going to get sick if I do that. So not that I like pushed myself, but I just try to like go with the flow. Right. Whatever happened. Like we had Korean barbecue at 9 p.m. The next day I went to Knott's. Right. The week before I went to Universal. Like I didn't even intentionally, it just became like that. Right. And so now we know really the effect and the positive effects of my do not do anything days. Yes, absolutely. And I think I am in tune with my body.
I think so too. Also, like after I got sick, I think I was like a little bit more like sympathetic towards you. Like I was like, oh, this kind of sucks.
Really. So I think for sure it's like a part of me being fearful of getting sick. Like I really don't like getting sick. Right. And it's really because of the optimization of my life, really, right? Because when you get sick, then you have to push everything, and then you push everything, and then it's just like a jam-packed week, and I don't like feeling that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, yeah, no, I totally get it. You know, between us, off camera, like Julie and I like had a talk. Like Julie kind of prompted the talk. Yeah. And I don't think until that talk where like you brought up kind of like the feelings of like, oh, like I just like feeling don't know where I don't know where our relationship stands. Like I think like it was firstly a little overdue. Like I think like we had gotten into the habit of not communicating. Yeah. Right?
Because that was when we were just talking to do the podcast.
Yeah. It was like it was just business. Yeah. It was purely business. God. Oh my God, that forearm strength. like we were just business partners, which is crazy because that's not how we started this. That's not like why. That's not why we started this.
Exactly.
And so I think like you're gonna go through ebbs and flows in your friendships, and then like I think making sure that you're being communicative and like making sure that the other person is aware of how you're feeling was like very key, because like I think from that point forward, like to be like we've been good, right?
Oh
like,
yes.
How you been feeling? Like I don't even know. But, like this should be our check-in from that. Okay.
Well, I think what's like that at that time, I think we were at the peak of living differently. Like, right, like we were able to start this because we were both home. Right. It was COVID. Like I was working a remote job. I mean, it just aligned in terms of like availability and like even our energies and all that stuff. Right. But when we had that conversation, I was in a relationship where we were seeing each other like a lot. Right. And I was going into the office, and you, I think at that point, were living out here, and I was still back home. And it was just like we were not living similar lifestyles. Right. And that's why it was so difficult to, maybe the word is empathize, right? With like what each other, like, because we were experiencing such different things. Yeah. And so I think that definitely added on to it. But yeah, how did that like make you feel? Like, do you think if I didn't bring it up, you would have brought it up?
I think I was making all these observations. Okay, guys, a recent thing of mine. I make a lot of observations. Like I have all the pieces of the puzzle, but I don't put the puzzle together. Like I don't make a lot of like conclusions, which is something like I think I'm just like literally not in the habit of doing, so I'm working on that. But like, right, I had all the puzzle pieces. I was like, okay, like Julie's busy because she's going into the office, because she's in a relationship, because she lives at home, she's not feeling church right now.
Yeah, I didn't go for like a solid 3 months,
right? Which I think also is like a big factor in,
it was a huge community for me, so like not having that support,
right? And then also like maybe not having as much support from friends and stuff like that. And then I knew also like family wise, like that wasn't doing so hot either. And so I was like, oh, maybe she's just like going through something, like maybe she's just stressed. But I never was like, oh, Julie is feeling a certain way about like our relationship. Like I thought separately, like I was like, oh, Julie's just going through it, you know? And so I was I think like sympathizing in that way. Yeah. Like, oh, like she's just going through a phase. Like maybe she's just like tired and like a little grumpy. And like she's busy.
Because I don't have a good poker face. So, you know, I definitely was not coming into recordings all like jolly and like
right. And right, like I think in terms of that, like I was like, okay, what Julie are we gonna get today? Like I was just like, okay, but I never thought that it was our relationship, right? Because I think like also maybe in the past, like I've had a habit of like overthinking and being like, is this person mad at me, right? Yeah. And so now I choose not to do that, because I'm like, if you're mad at me, you need to communicate that to me. Otherwise I'm not gonna assume anything. And so also
so that's good, right? Because clearly like I don't want to call it an issue, but like I was the one that had like, I was feeling upset, right. So that makes sense that you wouldn't have brought it up, because
I didn't know. I was literally unaware. Like I thought it was every other factor, but me.
But yeah, I was going through I needed Jesus at the time.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, I don't think I would have brought it up. Yeah. Had you not. Yeah. And then, right, that kind of takes us back to like the very beginning of where we started, of you were gaslighting yourself and being like, I'm not justified in bringing up these things to Hannah, because what is the solution?
Or not so much what is the solution, but like I can see your perspective so clearly that I don't know like what you would do. Right. Like I don't know what, like selfishly it would have been then like you ask me to like hang out with you on the weekend and I can't, so I say no, so then you just have to be okay with like being rejected. Like no, right? So like what, like I just couldn't like process how I wanted to bring up how I felt without you feeling like it was your responsibility.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah. So like I just felt so selfish. Like how do I bring it up? Like, because this is how I feel. Right. And so I mean, the way it was probably a couple months, and like, yeah, sometimes like with the ebb and flow, like I felt like I was doing really good at just letting it go, but it wasn't necessarily letting it go. It was just like digging a deeper hole to like not feel it.
Suppress.
And yeah. And then it would rise. And then yeah, I think like to me, it just got to the point where like, okay, I have to bring it up because if I wait any longer, it would become so irrelevant and ridiculous.
Oh.
You know, like there's a, not, I mean, you know, like a breakup, there's never like, you know, we know that there's never a good time for a breakup. There's never a good time to like quit a job either.
Right.
Like, right, especially if you're in an interview process and you get an offer, like there's no like, oh, I have to bring it up to my boss. Like I feel like you just need to do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was just like, yeah, there wasn't a bad time to bring it up or like a good time to bring it up.
Right.
But you just do it.
Right.
But funny enough, if it's not interesting, it's funny. But funny enough, like I don't know if anybody outside of our group of close friends would ever get to that point of me feeling bothered or feeling left out from their other relationships.
For people that you don't care about, you literally don't care about them.
Yes.
And so for
but I mean, I still
you...
care for my friends.
Right.
But I think it's more because I have had friends who, right, clearly seem to be more available when they are single, and so we'll kind of text a lot more often, or they'll randomly FaceTime, or right, like we will hang out a bit more. And then once they do get into the relationship, it's like poof.
Bye.
Right? But it doesn't bother me.
Oh.
But I guess even in the context of, obviously this wasn't like a, well, actually, did it root in the relationship?
I think it had something to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause like
I think I was just so tired.
Yeah, I think it was literally that thing of like, you're tired, you're hungry, like,
yeah,
you know,
and I
like,
don't do well in heat.
Yeah.
That's why I hate the summer. I really identified I don't like summer.
Yeah, I don't like summer either.
I hate
and
the
like,
summer.
right, all of this went down in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god. So, okay, well, question, because I feel like in both of my two past like serious relationships, like I've tried really hard to, I mean, I know I wasn't the most available, but I try to not be the girlfriend who
Like
was
disappeared.
was only like me and my significant other.
Right.
Like, what are your thoughts? Like, do you think I was aware enough? Do you feel like I was very not present? And I guess I asked this because when reflecting upon like the group of girls that we're a part of, when somebody gets into a new relationship, like I don't necessarily feel left out or feel like they act in a way where they just like remove themselves and hang out with their boyfriend, because historically we've always only seen each other a handful of times in a year, and we've only gotten really or like put in more effort the past like 2 years maybe.
Yeah.
Right. So I think historically, because I'm so used to having only seen you guys like during Thanksgiving, like for Christmas, like,
and then
maybe for birthdays,
yeah,
but really not even all the time, because like some of us, right, we would just not have a big
people.
thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, do you feel like I'm the type that disappears when I'm in a relationship?
I would say yes and no. In
Maybe
that,
so.
well, yes and no, because I think we weren't hanging out one-on-one anymore. Everything had become a group thing, and when things like expand to a group thing, the dynamic changes, and things inevitably become more surface level because there's too many people that need to talk, right? When we get together, it is like 6 of us, 7, 8, 9, right? Like anywhere from 6 to 9 people. Like you're not it's like everyone gets 1 minute. Everyone go around and share 1 minute about this, about relationship, about family, about, you know, whatever it is.
Work.
Yes. And so I think we weren't like hanging out one-on-one. So in that aspect, like I was like, okay, like maybe a little bit. But then also when we were doing our recordings, I felt like you weren't being present, I guess, because I know how busy you were. And maybe that's where the lack of understanding of like you and your work like came in, right? Because like I like wouldn't understand. Like I was like, what do you mean you need to respond right now?
Yeah.
Like I was like, it's okay, right? Because my work is like not like, we need this in 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And so I think like even like realizing like, oh shit, there's a difference in like work and stuff like that. So like maybe like a little bit of a lack of presence, but
so your answer is yes and no, maybe so.
Yeah, yes and no, maybe so.
Yeah, I think it was like, see, because my answer to myself when I asked myself like, was I, the answer would also be yes and no, in the sense where it wasn't strictly like I was allocating all my time to my significant other,
right?
Although the majority of it was, but because I knew like that part was such a big portion of just my day and my week, I was trying to fit in the mostest in all the other hours that I had available, right? So it wasn't really like because I did prioritize spending time with my significant other, my gym, like my boxing time, like the times that I would like see my family and friends would all be contingent upon like what activity we were doing. But I didn't want to give up any of it.
Right.
So like I had to somehow still like find a way to squeeze in family, friends, obviously like bettering myself in the workplace and like putting more hours, and like working out. And, you know, for me, shopping is big. And so like shopping and church, like all those things I did not want to give up.
Right.
So I was just kind of like
doing everything.
Yeah.
But like, it's almost like, right, when it's like you're spreading yourself too thin.
For
like,
sure.
Rather than being able to give like 100% of your time and
Yeah.
like energy, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, like I just have a bit less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like even now thinking about, you know, me commenting maybe on one of the episodes or even just to you during like preparation, how I want to make sure I'm doing this like with like a quality effort. I think that was just like a note to myself because I knew at the time I was definitely not giving a quality effort.
Oh,
you know when you like say things because you don't believe like you don't believe it about yourself.
Yeah, you're trying to convince yourself.
Yeah. Let's try to not be like an average in all the aspects because at the time I was so tired. I was definitely not giving my all in all those areas of my life.
Right. And also another comment is like, right, I've seen a lot of my friends like get into relationships. Like I've been the person who has been in the relationship, and so I understand like, right, at the beginning, like you're excited, you want to hang out with this person, like you want this person to be at everything, like you want to experience everything together. So like I get it. Like I think like you should. I think like it's great when people prioritize relationships, but then also like even if you are aware like of like, oh, let me not be that person that disappears when I'm in a relationship, like I think on the other person's side, like your friend's side, even if it's not a super drastic change, like they probably recognize like, oh, maybe the priorities have shifted a little bit. So I also think it's like, you know, a little bit of that. Like,
for sure.
Even with you, like I think it's great that you were spending, you know, however much time with your significant other. Like I think like you seemed really happy, and so like that was like the most important thing to me. But then like I guess it's realizing now, like reflecting on things like, oh, like more than the time, it was like your energy levels, you know, like like I just recognized that like it was just like a tire.
And you know what's funny? Like I said, October, I just like love the month of October. And maybe it's because I was like super sick the past like week and a half. Sometimes I feel enraged, right? By just like how much I put like this other individual's priorities over like my own. But I learned a lot. Like, and then some days I'm like really happy from what I learned. Like whether it be about myself or like reflecting upon like, oh wow, I did that for this individual, like I'm capable of doing this for somebody else. Like some days I'm just like, I have learned so much from that relationship. And I think it was just hard because the energy levels were so different. Or I feel like I could understand that individual's energy capacity.
Right.
I'm not too sure if it was reciprocated though.
Right, like they had like a high social battery.
Yeah.
And like didn't really understand that you did not. For you,
like you just said, like as a joke, just kind of like, oh, like what kind of Julie am I gonna get today? But you're not like upset about it. It's like you get the Julie that you get.
Yeah, it's just kind of,
it is what it is.
It's literally just like a fact of being, you know, a part of your life. Which is fine.
You know, some days I come and I'll give you a heads up, right? Like, oh, like I had so many meetings today, but therefore I try to make sure like I don't like stockpile too many meetings on a certain day and stuff like that. Like I do put in the effort. I don't just always try to tire myself out.
Right.
So like where you understand it, I don't think that individual could understand, and therefore it would equate to like him having to nunchi ba too much instead of
like
just
accepting.
Like like what's the word, like molding into the like molding the situation into making it work with the type of energy that I was giving,
aka compromise.
That is the word. That was the word I was looking for. Exactly, compromise. Which also I don't want to make myself sound crazy. Like I'm not like mood swingy like like really energy, like absolutely no energy. But you can definitely tell because I am so expressive, I think. Right. And like when I do come in like really hyper, and then when I am just a bit more
chill.
Yeah, chill.
Yeah. I think it's good that we like kind of addressed all of this outside of the podcast, like worked on our relationship outside of the podcast.
Yeah. Well, I think we're good because like after mentioning it and hearing like what you had to say about it too, right? Because that's when you had expressed like, right, like it doesn't feel nice to like be rejected like, well, that's the thing. I wasn't like saying no all the time, but right, like just providing that type of perspective. And even now doing the reflection and understanding of how I was trying to do the mostest and essentially maybe like a little greedy, right? Like I don't want to let anything go and I'm going to make all of it work.
Right.
Right. And all these other individuals are going to get the side of me that is burnt out because I was being greedy and wanting it all. I'm like trying to let that go too. Like, you know what? Like on some days I'm not going to be able to work out. On some days, like when I do not feel good, like, yeah, we are going to push recording because I cannot. Right. Like I was sick. And honestly, that day I probably could have. Like I could have, but you might have gotten sick. Because I would have been like breathing
like
everywhere. I was definitely like still contagious.
Oh, it's okay. I was extremely tired that day anyway, so it worked out perfectly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yes, we are good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're great.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Look at us.
Bro. I do these to my coworkers all the time and they get so annoyed.
The way you just like dodged a fist bump from me, Kay.
What was it? I forgot it already.
Okay. Yeah, and so I guess conclusion, at least on my end, is like to be communicative.
For sure. But you know, that's hard. That's literally hard.
Yeah.
I swear, like a question I ask, or just like people in general a lot, not casually, just in the workspace, is like, how do you build strong relationships? And everyone's like communication, but
what does that mean?
Yeah, like communication is hard.
Like I think it starts with awareness and then also being like vulnerable enough to communicate, because I think it takes a lot of vulnerability to be like, I'm feeling hurt. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
I'm feeling abandoned.
Yeah.
I'm feeling left out.
Yeah. And my conclusion, I mean, as we kind of touched upon it, would be more so like if you are feeling left out, it takes two, right? So where I struggled a bit was trying to justify and I was gaslighting myself a lot. But if you feel that way and it's someone you care about, bring it up. But also if you are the friend, like either in that relationship or obviously you're not like intentionally making the person like feel that way. But if you're on the other side, I think it's also being aware that you're not just leaving your friend, maybe a sibling, just whoever you're close to, just out in the dust like that, right? It's a gradual dynamic shift.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, well that was our episode. You guys can give us a follow at bulgogi.podcast on Instagram and TikTok, on Twitter at bulgogi podcast, me on all social platforms at HANAKATTT,
and me at BEJULIFIED.
Yay! And subscribe to our YouTube. Thanks.
Yeah, do it.
Okay.
Awesome. 1, 2, 3. Ooh.
That was
you were not prepared. You're like,
well, because I was trying to go different from you, and then like I didn't know what you were gonna do.
But you were trying to guess by the shape of my mouth.
Yes, I was.
Yeah,
I was looking at your mouth real intense.
Yeah, I could tell.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.